Congratulations. And what do you feel is next for you? Do you feel you will stay in the welterweight division? I know you've talked about possibly moving up to 185 pounds. Do you see any big challenges out there that excite you?
Yeah, I see a huge challenge. Big announcement, guys. My single, I'll Beat Your Ass, is coming out next week, featuring Wiz Khalifa. Make sure you check it out on all platforms.
Who do you think of when you think of a next challenge?
You know, it's kind of tough to say because anytime I say I want to fight a certain person, it doesn't get the response I want. So what I'm going to do is just continue to fight wherever they put in front of me. I'm going to beat them up. I'm the best welterweight of all times.
What's going on, everybody? This is episode 43 of Combat Docket Radio. As always, I'm Kurt. He's Ben, and we're here to bring you everything going on in the MMA world this week. What's up, Ben?
Not much. Feeling good. I got to ask, you just got back from Austin, Texas?
I did, man. It was crazy. Really cool freaking place, though.
Yeah, was that your first time being there?
Yeah, that was my first time in Texas. My first time, obviously, in Austin. Man, I loved it. We stayed like a block away from 6th Street. Have you been to Austin?
Yeah, many times. It's one of my favorite cities ever.
Dude, it's awesome. Like, sometimes you go on vacation and it's like, I could probably do without going there again. But, dude, I freaking loved Austin.
Yeah.
My liver hates me right now, but I loved it.
I mean, there's a reason it's so expensive to live there because everybody wants to live there. I love that place.
Yeah, I went to the Onnit facility. Obviously, I'm a 10th Planet affiliate, so I got to train at 10th Planet Austin. We checked out the Onnit facility. Dude, that place is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I was hoping to run into Tim Kennedy randomly, but sadly that didn't happen. I was ready to fanboy it out. But, yeah, Austin was great, man. So much to do. I feel like I got a pretty good I feel like I did a lot, not just drink, but I was out and about throughout the city. I'd definitely like to go there again.
Definitely. It's good to hear.
All right, so I'm going to go on another little rant. I would like to announce to our millions and millions of fans, I would like to eat crow, eat my words live on this podcast about one Tyron Woodley. I've been a Tyron Woodley hater for a while for various reasons. And a lot of it was like, just like I felt, and I think a lot of it, I was blinded by like his last two performances, right? Against, Stephen Thompson, the second fight against Damian Maia. I just felt like he had so much more to show and he just held back. But, after this fight, I mean, he went out there against Darren Till and, I mean, just put on such an awesome performance. Obviously stopped Till, hit him with just a beautiful Darce choke. And then I went back and I'm looking at his record. I watched some of his previous fights and the guy, love him or hate him, but he is, I might not even say I think he's probably the most underappreciated champion out there, especially by the company, by the UFC. I mean, they are not backing this guy. He does it. I mean, he does his own marketing. He, obviously he's had his rifts with Dana and the company, and he uses his stature, to his advantage. He uses it wisely. He doesn't back down. He says what's on his mind. He's not going to be sold short. He's not going to sell himself short to do the company any favors. And yeah, dude, I'm one of them. I feel like I've really underappreciated Tyron Woodley, underestimated him. Man, the guy's a killer, and the resume he's put together at welterweight is just unreal. I mean, he's, so let me ask you this. I know a lot of people have already talked about this throughout the week, but like after this Darren Till win, where does that put Tyron Woodley like in the GOAT talk of welterweights in your mind?
I think he's still definitely behind GSP, who in my mind is like the GOAT of any weight class.
Absolutely.
So I think he's certainly behind GSP. I think the consensus number 2 welterweight ever is probably Matt Hughes, right?
Absolutely.
And I think he's creeping up on that. And exactly what you were just saying, that like Tyron Woodley presents himself well. Is he like, when he talks about himself in terms of how good he is amongst other welterweights, he like sells you on it. He's like, you know what? I fought Robbie Lawler when he was at his most violent. I fought an extreme kickboxing specialist twice. I fought an extreme grappling specialist. And then now I fought like, he sells you on his record and makes an argument for him being the number 1 or number 2 best welterweight ever. I think he's still probably behind Matt Hughes, but because I feel like Matt Hughes didn't fight bums. I'm sure there were some in there, but you know.
No, he didn't, totally, but it was just a different time. You know, yeah. and that's tough to look at. But man, I'm right with you. I think he's number 3, honestly. And I mean, you know, you even look a little bit further. I mean, right before the Robbie Lawler win, he beat Kelvin Gastelum, who's now about to fight for the middleweight title. He's got wins over Carlos Condit. I mean, the guy has done it all. And I forget, it was I don't know if you listen to the MMA Hour, but I forget what the dude that's on it, or he's been on it like the last couple weeks with Danny and Luke. Oh man, I want to say his last name is like Campbell, CBS Sports. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he had a really good take on Tyron Woodley. And he was saying, like, you know, Tyron Woodley is almost like the Floyd Mayweather of MMA. And not in the sense of like, you know, he's the best, the GOAT, like the best to ever do it, but in the sense that he fights smart, right, in every fight. And, you know, fans get on him, and I mean, man, he's just preserving his body. He's fighting the right style fights. He's doing what he has to do to win. I mean, Tyron Woodley's 36 years old, but he's not a 36 where it's like, man, he's got to think about hanging him up. He's like a 36 where it's like, you can't really see the, you know, light at the end of the tunnel right now. It looks like he's improving every fight. He's in great shape. He's not slowing down. He's just picking up momentum. I mean, he's really, really taking care of his body well throughout his career.
Yeah, I mean, I think athletically, he still feels like, except for maybe Kamaru Usman, he still feels like the best, like, overall athlete, you know, in the welterweight division. So 36, whatever, he still feels like the fastest guy. He's certainly the harder hitter, like one punch hitter than Usman, but you know, in terms of explosion, speed, all that stuff, he's there. And, you know, talking about, he has these boring fights or, you know, really kind of passive fights. Darren Till showed us what happens as soon as you try to make it exciting with Tyron Woodley, you know, what can happen.
Yeah. I mean, he, you know, speaking about the fight, he picked that shot, just perfectly, rocked Darren Till, and to Darren Till's credit, man, the guy took a beating on the mat. I thought after those first couple elbows, I was like, damn, he's done. You know, he stayed with it. He kept his head about. And, you know, Tyron Woodley jumped on that Darce choke. Beautiful finish. Dean Thomas awarded him his black belt after the fight, which was really cool to see. And then, you know, in the press conference, man, I just really, really liked what Tyron had to say. You know, he wasn't calling out anybody. He's like, you know what? Next man up. He's like, I'll fight them all. I don't really care. You know, I just want to fight. I really like that. I think that was a step in the right direction for him, at least, you know, appealing to the masses.
Yeah. Kind of what you were talking about at the very beginning is it feels like there's a shift with Tyron Woodley, or it feels like he's really settled into being champion now. And he's less concerned about getting the exact fight he wants, and his whole gimmick, it's not really a gimmick, but his whole deal now seems to be just like solidifying his legacy as, you know, hopefully in his mind, the best welterweight of all time.
He's well on his way.
And he's just, you know, yeah. And he speaks super calmly about all that. And he's always been well-spoken, but
yes.
He seems a little bit less like agitated. You know
exactly.
what I mean? A little bit less antagonistic with the press and with the UFC. Did you also catch, like, at the press conference and just in the post-fight interview, Tyron Woodley was so much more pumped about getting his black belt than retaining the UFC title.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I wonder if it's like, so my next question for you is like, why isn't the UFC backing this guy? Like, Dana White doesn't show up to the press conference, which is a slap in the face. Unless, like, unless there was something that happened like personally where Dana White could not be there, like there's really no excuse for him not to be at the press conference. And I almost feel like Tyron Woodley is like making a bigger deal out of the black belt and not the UFC title is kind of for that reason, because he knows the company is not behind him. I don't know, man. Why isn't the company behind this guy?
I mean, maybe I think part of it is probably personal, because it's still, it still is a business with individuals running it. So, maybe personally, Dana White or Sean Shelby, maybe they don't get along with him personally. Like, that's a legitimate thing that could happen. I also think, Woodley has a reputation of being difficult to negotiate with. The super kind of boring fight against Damian Maia, the pretty tepid second fight against Thompson, and even the first fight was not super exciting for stretches of time. And I think I know Woodley is, he's outspoken politically, so maybe they see that as like a risk that he's gonna, alienate some of the fan base. However, that doesn't really make sense, because if somebody disagrees, if somebody disagrees with Woodley's politics, they probably want to see him get his ass kicked. The same way cuts both ways with Colby Covington, right? If you disagree with
Floyd Mayweather too,
all those guys, yeah. So I don't know. Maybe the UFC is afraid of that a little bit, but I don't think so. But I don't know. I think he's been difficult to negotiate with, and he has put on some stinker fights, but he's super well spoken, and exactly what you said, like he's promoting himself. I found it hilarious that he used his post fight mic time to talk about like a single that he was dropping, because he's rapping now.
Yeah, man. I think he really nailed it. With the post-fight press conference. And again, yeah, kind of like you said, like it seems like there's no real like agitation there anymore. He's just kind of settled into his role as being champion, well-spoken, and open to fighting the best out there. Which brings us to our next point. So I'm gonna throw two things out there. Who is next for Tyron Woodley? And do you think there's any chance that whoever it is, you think Tyron Woodley might defend that belt at 230? Because obviously, we're halfway through September and we still have no UFC 230 main event. I mean, I think Tyron Woodley is probably a logical, if they can make something happen, is probably a logical choice, I would think, for that event.
Yeah. Well, did you see somebody in the press conference asked him specifically, can you fight at UFC 230? It's soon. And he was like, what, if I could definitely do that. I feel fine right now. If the price is right, I can certainly do that. So maybe. I also I don't know if you caught early on the pay-per-view portion of the card. They're talking about upcoming events, and Anik or somebody says, UFC 230 doesn't have a main event, but then Rogan kind of laughs or chuckles to himself and is like, I know there's something in the card. So it sounds like they have something planned, and Rogan knows about it, which whatever. So I don't know, but yeah, like, could you see like Woodley, like, I don't know. It's going to be some sort of surprise, whatever it is. But like, yeah, I mean, he seemed very open to fighting on 230.
I mean, for me right now, I think that's a good possibility. The other two, and the other two possibilities might be like DC stepping in and fighting somebody. But again, that's risky, with the Brock Lesnar fight, hanging in the air for DC. Also, we've kind of talked about it in earlier episodes. John Jones might be out there, but who knows with that. But I mean, Tyron Woodley, I think it makes sense. And I think there's really three guys that make sense, obviously, for Tyron Woodley. And that's obviously Colby Covington, who a lot of people would want to see. And again, we talked about it a while back, but like the fight to put Tyron Woodley over to the masses and make him like that baby face is the Colby Covington fight. They have that backstory. Colby Covington is the villain right now. I think that's the perfect fight for Woodley. There's also Kamaru Usman, who is right there. And man, I wouldn't count out GSP. You never know what GSP is thinking, what GSP is doing. He's training hard. A lot of rumors about him fighting the winner of Conor Khabib. But, I mean, GSP, Woodley, MSG, The welterweight GOAT versus the guy right on his tail could make sense. Big fight too.
Yeah, it's a huge fight. And I honestly, like, that sounds crazy because it feels like that's something that should be announced months and months in advance. But it also, you never know with the UFC lately. And especially I feel like you never know with somebody like GSP, who's pretty secretive and everything is well planned when things are announced. Same with Conor, for that matter. Conor's not necessarily secretive, but his fight plans are kept under wraps. Yeah, I mean, whatever that MSG card is, it doesn't like if they put Woodley and Covington as the main event there, that doesn't necessarily feel big enough for like MSG with, they got Nate Diaz in the co-main event. So I don't know, man, but Covington in my mind makes the most sense, like in terms of what's going on in the division. But I wouldn't mind seeing him fight. Obviously, I would prefer GSP to come back under any circumstance, to be honest.
Right. GSP would be cool, but man, I still want to see that Covington fight.
I think that happens. I think Covington Woodley definitely happens at some point.
It's gotta.
Not next. I assume it's next, but
it's
unless
gotta.
GSP comes back.
Yeah, unless GSP comes back. But I mean, again, who's GSP going to take? The winner of Conor Khabib, especially if it's Conor, or Tyron Woodley. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And it looks like he's trying to maybe prep himself for 55. But yeah, I mean, I'd honestly be down for, Colby, Tyron at UFC 230. And could you imagine like the dynamic of like Nate Diaz mixed in with those two randomly at like a press conference or weigh-ins or something? I mean, that'd be freaking hilarious. Diaz and Covington. Imagine that. Dynamic.
Because Woodley and Covington would be talking like kind of corny trash talk. They'd be talking politics and stuff. And Nate Diaz, just his I don't give a fuck attitude and I want to kick all your asses would just be incredible there in the mix.
Plus, I'm sure Colby would say something about Nate, which would be
100%.
hilarious to hear Nate's, response to
100%. Yeah, I'd love that.
You got anything else on that main event? Tyron Woodley, UFC 230 right now?
No. I mean, any day now, you got to assume they're announcing it, so we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Colby's definitely ready. Usman's ready. Who knows with GSP? Seems like Woodley's ready, so we shall see. Co-main event. Or actually, before we talk about the co-main event, let's talk about what was the co-main event and what transpired after that. So, Nicco Montano, we hear, I believe, like after early weigh-ins already started, right? Or was it right before? That Nicco Montano was brought to the hospital. Apparently, she was like, she started her weight cut at like 146 a couple days out. And she seemed to look fine. Like at the open workouts, she did that. She did a couple interviews the day before weigh-ins, and she looked fine. She looked good, honestly. And then she went to the hospital. Apparently, her kidneys were shutting down, and the fight with Valentina Shevchenko was pulled. And Nicco was stripped of her title shortly thereafter. I know she was on the MMA Hour this past week. I didn't get a chance to listen to it. She put out a lengthy statement on her social media, basically saying that she found out that she was stripped via, I think, Twitter, Instagram, which is kind of crazy. What do you make of the whole situation?
It sucks. I was actually kind of looking forward to the fight. I mean, I thought Valentina was gonna win pretty easily, but I was looking forward to it. I think like it's super shitty for Nicco Montano, but because her hospitalization was like weight cut related, and it sounds like she, cutting from 146 is a humongous cut. In my mind, that's the same. What happened with her is the same as not making weight. And I'm actually like, I'm totally fine with stripping a champion if they are unable to make championship weight. Because that's essentially, they've lost their opportunity to defend that belt. So I'm fine with her being stripped. I mean, it fucking sucks for her because she's, she's going to take a huge pay cut. And I'm sure she was depending on the money that she expected to earn here. But like, had she been hospitalized for something unrelated, like if she caught the flu, then I'd be like, don't strip her, because that's that's not up to her. But because this was weight cut related, I'm fine with the UFC stripping her, especially honestly, like, 125 has kind of been the UFC's bastard division, started with tough and then produced a champion where everybody just assumed she'd immediately lose to Valentina Shevchenko. So
yeah, but I feel kind of, I feel bad for Nicco, and I don't really have a strong stance either way, whether I agree or disagree with her getting stripped. But I feel like she's just being used as a scapegoat here. It feels like this flyweight division has just never like been given a chance.
It's like they can start they can start a new division now, basically. Just forget that.
Yeah,
Tough
and it's
happened.
just like, and why did Tough happen? Like, they put all these fighters in the house. Nicco was the number 16 pick. She was the last pick. She had a 4-2 record. I mean, there was no like real like savage killers out there in this, in that house, honestly. And it's just like, yeah, I feel like they're hitting the reset button and it's all falling down on Nicco, and I feel bad for her, honestly. But again, like, if it's weight cut related, which it was, I guess I don't have that much of a problem with them stripping her. But yeah, I just feel like it's all come down on her. I feel like she's being used as a scapegoat here, and they're just pressing the reset on it. And it just feels like, well, why did we go through this whole Tough thing? Should have just made her the number one contender. Obviously they couldn't have predicted that she'd have all these problems. What does she have? Like she had like tonsillitis or a couple other crazy things. They couldn't have predicted that, but it feels like it should have, like, if you knew Shevchenko was coming up, or you knew Joanna was coming up, or you had some other savages coming up, like, just make that for the number one contender. They fight, and then you wouldn't have this whole fiasco having to strip people now. But like, who makes sense for Valentina now? Because obviously she's going to get the title shot. It's not going to be Nicco. Who makes sense?
Well, I think the popular pick has been Joanna. At least that feels like what everybody's talking about. But I don't know. I haven't heard anything from her. I feel like she's pretty dead set on staying at strawweight.
Well, it seems also like the UFC is dead set on her staying at strawweight, and I don't know why. Because the Valentina fight has some backstory. They fought 3 times in Muay Thai, and Valentina won all 3 fights. And Rose going up, she's had weight cut struggles. Her going up, she'd have an opportunity to avenge that. It builds a new rivalry in a different sport. She has the opportunity to become the first female 2-division champion. See, I don't know. She feels like the right person for that job.
Also, like, I understand, it would be Joanna's first fight in the UFC at flyweight. So some people would be, up in arms, or she hasn't earned the spot, yada, yada, yada. But if you legitimately look at the UFC's women's flyweight rankings, like, if you add Joanna to that mix, she and Valentina are 1 and 1A. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
The number 2 ranked fighter at flyweight after Valentina is Sijara Eubanks, which I would pick Joanna to just destroy. Then Caitlin.
Absolutely.
Like, and that's no disrespect to them. It's just that you add Joanna to flyweight, it's just kind of assumed that she is the number 1 or number 2 fighter in that division.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Joanna fight makes the most sense. Isn't Eubanks, who's Eubanks fighting pretty soon? Is it Barb Honchak or Lauren Murphy or something like that? Could be wrong.
I'm not sure. I think it's Lauren Murphy.
I heard a lot of people call out for Liz Carmouche. Liz Carmouche actually owns a win over Shevchenko.
No,
she's the first.
Sijara Eubanks is fighting Jessica Ai. That's a good fight.
Jessica Ai, yeah. Joanne Calderwood, maybe she's up there. She's had a nice win. Yeah, who knows? Caitlin Chukagian. I don't know, man.
I mean, the division is just getting its legs, so I'm fine with throwing in people from other divisions there at the top of it.
Yeah, it definitely needs a reset. And I think Valentina actually has a lot of potential to carry that division and become a long reigning champ. I mean, she's got all the skills. Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. So the co-main event that was, Jessica Andrade absolutely murked Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Kind of tough to watch because Karolina just seems like such a sweetheart, like such a kind person. And man, Valentina, Jessica Andrade just knocked her lights out. Andrade is a scary, scary person at that weight class. Man, she gets better and better each fight. She never takes a step backwards. And she's got some scary power for being such a small chick.
Yeah, dude, she is something at 115. And I gotta say, like we talked about, both of us agreed that Andrade is a terrible matchup style wise for Kowalkiewicz, but I don't even know what Kowalkiewicz was thinking. Maybe her corner, I don't speak Polish, maybe her corner was yelling at her to move and jab and move, stick and move. But there was like Kowalkiewicz met Andrade on Andrade's preferred terms. Like she just willingly engaged with
and not
her.
engaged smartly. I mean, she like
no, she just
threw. The old eyes closed, like pray something lands, and it was her undoing.
And like, well, she was landing, but I think Andrade is totally fine with that if it means she can land her own punch. You know what I mean? She'll happily eat one to give one. And it was just immediately clear that Andrade was like the way better athlete, the way harder puncher. And yeah, man, she is pretty physically impressive for that weight class. I'm sure we're about to talk about it, but assuming she fights Rose Namajunas, I am super pumped for that fight to see how Rose responds to that kind of pressure.
Gotta fight Rose. I mean, that makes the most sense. She already lost to Joanna, hasn't fought Rose yet. She's on a roll right now, and again, she just looks better and better. Yeah, absolutely. Coming off 3 big wins, that barn burner with Claudia, Tisha Torres, now Karolina. You definitely cannot deny her this title fight. So yeah, absolutely. If we could just skip down a little bit on the card, and then we'll come back to the main card. But another big fight in that women's strawweight division. A serious player was born. Tatiana Suarez beat Carla Esparza. I mean, absolutely dominated Carla in that fight. I don't think Carla won a millisecond of any of those rounds. Suarez is big, she's long, and her wrestling and top pressure is just that's a chick that's a problem in that division. I mean, I don't know how you keep her off of you. She moves forward well, she uses her length well, and when she's on top, she just absolutely swarms you. I've heard a lot of comparisons to Khabib too.
Yeah, and not gonna lie, I kind of think she has better transitions than Khabib. Like her transition from striking to grappling is pretty smooth. Like she looks a lot more experienced than what her record shows. And yeah, just super dominant takedowns. I mean, I thought Esparza would put up a fight in instances. I thought Esparza would be able to defend takedowns and maybe land some punches on the feet, but if she defended a takedown, she was just immediately defending another one and immediately defending another one. You know what I mean? Like Suarez is super tough for that division. There's not a ton of great wrestlers at strawweight. I mean, Jessica Andrade has been a pretty dominant wrestler, but I think in a straight grappling, like wrestling matchup, Suarez wins 10 times out of 10. She's way more technical. So yeah, there's a ton of striking based fighters at strawweight that I think are not looking forward to having to deal with Tatiana Suarez.
Hey, listen, man, I know we just talked about her, but if she's staying at 115, Joanna is the fight to make.
Oh, man.
100%. The former champ, probably the most badass striker in that weight class, that's the fight I want to see if she's staying at 15. Because, again, a win over Tatiana Suarez puts Joanna right back in that mix. And a win for Suarez, the same thing. I think Suarez is 1 win away from fighting for a title. Yeah, man, give me that Joanna fight if she doesn't go up to 25.
Yeah, stylistically, I would fucking love that because Joanna has pretty good takedown defense, but she'll chew you up in the clinch if you hang out there. Man,
absolutely.
That's style-wise, that's a great fight.
Yeah, 100%. I'm in for it. I think Suarez definitely needs to step up. She's ready for it, and she's a fresh face in that division. Man, I gotta say, women's strawweight, dude, is like sneakily like one of, if not the most exciting divisions in the sport, period. I mean, they put on some bangers. There's some really good fighters coming out of those divisions, man. I love watching those chicks fight.
Yeah, I'm with you. And Exhibit A is got to be Jessica Andrade, but then when we just, Tatiana Suarez as well with her grappling. I'm looking at the rankings now. Nina Ansarov. Gedalia's always fun.
Nina, yeah.
And then, of course, Rose, Joanna, Violence. Man, yeah, strawweight there's a reason why women's flyweight is not that good of a division. It's because most of those women are fighting at strawweight.
Yeah, definitely the best women's division out there by far.
Oh, easily.
Love it. All right. Back up to the main card. Zabit Magomedsharipov, say that 5 times, defeated Brandon Davis with this crazy knee bar. And honestly, I've dabbled with pulling that submission off, and man, I could tell you, it's like that is a really, really hard position to get into. It's an old wrestling position. And not only is it going to hurt your knee, but also the pressure it puts like on your groin and your thigh. I mean,
it's a stretch.
Dude, that sucks. Yeah, it's a straight stretch. And for Zabit to pull that off, dude, and we'll talk about it too, but Aljamain Sterling pulled it off. How crazy is that? The same submission twice. How fucking nuts is that?
It's crazy because that one is particularly rare.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Crazy. So Zabit, fought Brandon Davis. We were supposed to get Yair. Did what he had to do. I thought he was super impressive as always. He's always fun to watch. Brandon Davis was a good fight for him. He gets the thrilling submission. Did what he always, he does what he does. I mean, he's got that long, rangy striking, but he's also a really good pocket boxer, which is weird. Throwing those crazy kicks. I mean, his wrestling is sick. He's got the Dagestani slams, the back arches. He's the whole package, man. Who's next?
I don't know. I think I'm fine with Yair. Zabit specifically called for Chad Mendes. I don't know about that, man. I think he is, like you said, he's more or less the full package with what he can and can't, with the skills he brings. A lot of it, I think, is he's a super unique fighter. His transitions from striking to like those little trips are really flashy, and obviously the kicks can be really flashy as well. But he hasn't fought a single ranked opponent yet, so I don't think he's. I think there should be at least 1 or 2 steps before he fights somebody like Chad Mendes. I mean, I don't know what Yair's issue is health wise. I got no problem with them just doing that fight. I mean, otherwise, Zabit is only number 15 in featherweight, so anybody above him. But I don't think somebody like Chad Mendes is number 5. I think that's a little bit too soon for Zabit there. But I'd be down with Yair again.
I agree.
Them trying to make Yair happen again.
Yair, again, we talked about Cub. Cub's coming off a loss, but he's still a vet. He's ranked number 7. Jeremy Stevens could be fun. Josh Emmett. Again, Josh Emmett's still kind of hanging around in the top. Josh Emmett is like, he had that big win on short notice over Lamas, which really, I thought, bloated his rating. Not saying he's not a good fighter, but, that's a ranked opponent Zabit could fight. Darren Elkins, Lamas, Volkanovski, I'd love to see it, but again, that's kind of like 2 bright, young, interesting prospects that you're kind of throwing in there. Moicano, no, too high. Mendez, too high. Aldo, I'm hearing rumors of him wanting to go up to 55. Mirsad Bektik. Yeah, give me like Lamas, Elkins, Yair, Josh Emmett, Cub, or Jeremy Stevens. Somewhere around there. I have no problem with him fighting like Jeremy Stevens or Cub Swanson, but yeah, I think that top 5 is not just yet.
Yeah, he needs to fight like a real. I mean, he went to a decision with Kyle Bochniak, and Bochniak might be the most experienced guy he's fought. He just. I want to see Zabit against somebody like Yair, who's not Yair doesn't have a ton of fights, but he's at least fought the elite of featherweight. I don't know. I need to see a slow build here, because right now there's just so much hype, and maybe it's deserved around Zabit, but just his competition in the UFC has not been where it needs to be to garner the amount of, people are talking about him fighting Chad Mendes now. That just seems kind of silly to me at this point.
Yeah, I'd like to pump the brakes on Mendes. Just not just yet. But yeah, I mean, the guy's a stud. Jimmy Rivera, John Dodson. Jimmy Rivera did what he does. Won a decision over Dodson. Fun fight, nothing crazy. Abdul Razak Al Hassan defeated Nico Price. And let me go back one sec. I mean, Jimmy Rivera bouncing back after the Marlon Moraes fight, getting a big win over John Dodson. I can't be so ho-hum about that, because we forget Jimmy Rivera was on a 21 fight win streak before he lost to Moraes. He's still a big player in that division. Let me not be so ho-hum about that win.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this was, we haven't even talked about how good this card was overall, with all these fucking finishes and crazy fights. Just a great card. And this was the only fight that I feel like broke the momentum of, this is a really great, really, really great card. But that's fine. It was, not like the co-main event, so it's not like you fell asleep before the main event, anything like that. But, Jimmy Rivera just fought a really smart fight, countered Dodson when he gave him the opportunity, and that's kind of all it takes sometimes.
Yeah. So he puts himself back in like that mix where maybe one more big fight gets him back into that title picture. Maybe against Aljamain Sterling, who beat Cody Stamann. And I was actually picking Cody Stamann in that fight, but man, Sterling is so good. Guy is a stud. Super crafty, finds creative ways to win. Yeah, I can get down with have they fought yet, Rivera and Sterling?
I don't
think so, right?
Let me double check.
I'm looking now. No, they have not. And they're both like New York, New Jersey guys, so that'd be a fun one. Makes sense too, honestly.
Yeah, for sure it makes sense. Both top bantamweights. Dude, I actually thought, watching that Aljamain Sterling and Cody Stamann fight, like, I remember, I think last week I talked about, I was excited to see the grappling and kind of how that played out. Early, that first round, I felt like Stamann was actually getting the better of the wrestling, kind of winning scrambles. But then, yeah,
agreed.
Aljamain Sterling gets your back, man. He's creative, really aggressive on the back, and super hard to shake. So, watch out. He's one of those guys who, it feels like he kind of has one of those skills where it's like, if he gets your back, that round is over,
Agreed, man. And yeah, he's an interesting guy to keep an eye on. If he puts a couple wins together, gets on a roll, man, I feel like he can hang with the best of them.
Absolutely. If he can kind of shore up his striking defense, especially, just if he can find a quicker, more efficient, safer way to get into a grappling exchange, then he is a handful for absolutely anybody at 135.
Yeah, Abdul Razak Al Hassan starched Nico Price pretty quick. I was surprised at that. Not so much that Al Hassan won, but just the manner and the way and the quickness that he did. Because Nico Price is Nico Price is a tough ass dude, man, and he put his lights out. Jeff Neal had an absolutely savage knockout over Frank Camacho. Camacho's another dude too that's like super tough to put away. That was a pretty gruesome one to watch. Darren Stewart knocked out Charles Byrd. Irene Aldana, Lucy Pudilova was a fantastic fight. Did you get to catch that one on the prelims?
Oh yeah, I think it was the first fight of the night I watched.
Crazy. Those chicks threw the fuck down. Loved it.
Yeah.
And
that was bonker. I mean, it won fight of the night on a night of just great fights.
Yeah, exactly. So good for them, man. And then my two dudes, Jared Brooks got a win, friend of the show. Props to him. But my two dudes, Jim Miller, Diego Sanchez. How awesome was that both of those fucking dudes won? Man, it's been a long time since those dudes have won. Two vets, man. And it seems like neither of them are any closer to hanging the gloves up. And that saddens me.
Well, in Jim Miller's defense, he's talking about like, I am just now finally getting this Lyme disease under control. So it sounds like he was really, really struggling with just like normal day-to-day shit. And it sounds like he is at least on the right track, or he's feeling way better than he had in the past.
And we talked about it too. Like Jim Miller's been fighting just studs, so like the competition level never really dropped.
Right.
Dude, that was his 30th fight in the UFC. How crazy is that?
Did that break the record or tie the record?
I think that broke the record. I think he has the most fights now in the UFC.
That is that's crazy, man.
And it hasn't even been that long. Like, I mean, it's been a long time, but not like I don't think anything too crazy. Let's see when his first fight was in the UFC. Holy shit!
UFC 89 in 2008. I mean, it's a lot. I mean, it's 10 years, but like that's not. We're gonna talk about Andrei Arlovsky fights this weekend, and his first fight in the UFC was in 2000. So there's like way crazier. No, I mean 30 fights in 10 years, 3 fights a year. That sounds about right.
Yeah. So he won. I mean, dude, fucking Diego Sanchez is still talking about making a title run in 2018. The guy's off his rocker, dude. I fucking love him, dude. I feel like he's had the bigger downslide than Jim Miller, obviously. I mean, he's been knocked out a bunch. His chin's kind of gone. He was a pretty big dog in this fight too, wasn't he? Like plus 400 underdog or something like that.
That sounds about right. But man, they got it. What they need to do is just keep giving Diego Sanchez like grapplers that can't wrestle, because this is literally the only way that I feel like Diego Sanchez is going to win a fight in 2018 or on, is if he can take somebody down, and that's about it. Because fucking Craig White just terrible wrestling. I don't know much about Craig White, but this dude seemed woefully underprepared to fight Diego Sanchez.
Yeah, dude, I agree. But goddamn, it was awesome for those two dudes to win.
Yeah, I loved it.
You got anything else on this 228 card?
No, man, but just great fucking card. I would say card of the year so far.
All right, so let's move on to this weekend. We have UFC's first foray into the Russian market, headlined by Mark Hunt and Alexey Oleinik. Should be a fun one. Two dads fighting out there. Dude, how old is Oleinik? Isn't he like 46 or something crazy like that, or like 40? Like Mark Hunt's what, 44? I think
Mark Hunt is much older than him. I was just because Oleinik is not as old as I had thought. Let's see, Oleinik is 41, and Mark Hunt is 44.
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
How crazy is that? These guys are still beasts too. Your classic grappler versus striker matchup. I guess, right? I mean, it is, but I feel this is a really tough fight for Oleinik, I think. Because Hunt is just, the guy's just so tough. He's just a crafty veteran. He's tough to take down. Oleinik's not really like that great of a takedown artist. He's a bit chinny nowadays. I see Hunt. Hunt might get the old walk-off KO in this one over Oleinik.
Yeah, I think this is Mark Hunt's fight to lose. I think he should win. But man, I was watching some Alexey Oleinik fights to get ready for this, and his grappling is so weird. I've described it as he learned grappling exclusively from YouTube, because there's no like process to how he grapples, which most people, or most of us, I should say, when you learn like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you learn a system, a progression of position to position to position. This guy is fucking, if they are tied up, standing up against the fence, he's looking for an Ezekiel choke.
Exactly.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, and there was a sequence against Curtis Blades, when Curtis Blades took him down, and Oleinik immediately throws up like a super sloppy, like white belt level triangle, like didn't control his posture at all. It just, you know, the triangle is just going to fail. Blades blows through that triangle and passes immediately to the side control. But Oleinik like doesn't give a shit, because he's just immediately looking for another fucking Ezekiel choke or some sort of weird crank from like bottom side control. So I think Mark Hunt should win the fight, but at the same time, it's like Alexey Oleinik doesn't need a takedown to get a submission. He just needs to like be touching you, and he's gonna hunt for some weird shit.
Agreed. I think that.
But yeah, he's slow. He's open to be hit on the feet. Mark Hunt should catch him with his hands.
Yeah, man. I definitely think this is Mark Hunt's fight to lose. Where are these guys even ranked in the rankings right now? Like bottom top 10?
Yeah, Mark Hunt is 8 and Oleinik is 11, so more or less, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, neither of these guys are really knocking on the door for a title shot, but yeah, 2 OGs, 2 dads, and dude, Alexey Oleinik has like almost like 70 fights or something, doesn't he?
Let's see, his record is 56, 11, and 1, so that's 68 fights
with 46 submissions.
Dude, it's crazy. Like, I'm curious because I was really just trying to pay attention to his recent fights, and he just goes from random submission to random submission to random submission. So, I mean, he's fun to watch. Maybe he might be frustrating for like a jiu-jitsu coach to watch, but yeah, he's a crazy. His record is crazy. The way he wins is crazy. The fact how old he is crazy. And good for him getting a fucking UFC Moscow main event here. I bet he never considered that.
Dude, right, exactly.
Holy shit, his Wikipedia page goes back to 1996.
Dude, I'm looking at it now, but look at some of those submissions. He's got like probably 7 or 8 Ezekiel chokes.
I think he's got 11.
Dude, he's got multiple heel hooks. He's got bulldog chokes. He's got scarf hold chokes.
It's like
the guy's a savage, dude. He's crazy.
It's like all the submissions are like catch wrestling / like weird Eastern European. You know what I mean? They're not typical Brazilian jiu-jitsu submissions. I mean, he has those too, but all these scarf hold headlocks and stuff. It's kind of wild.
He beat Mirko Krokop with a scarf hold headlock in 2013. How crazy is that?
Yeah, I mean, if he gets Mark Hunt down, there's no reason to believe he couldn't be able to do that to Mark Hunt. I just don't think. I think he will not be able to get Mark Hunt down, and Hunt is pretty crafty. He gets you in that case of Gatami, he's fucking going to town.
Yeah, agreed. Fun fight, man. Co-main event: Jan Blachowicz versus the returning Nikita Krylov. This one should be a fun one. Glad to see Krylov back in the UFC.
Yeah, for sure. And remember, I don't know if you recall when he was cut, it was like a weird, people were like, oh, this is weird. This guy is a fun up and coming fighter at a high weight division. It was weird that they cut him, but
after one loss to Misha Serkinov, who's a stud in his own right.
He went out and I believe won the Fight Night's global belt, right? Yeah, the light heavyweight championship. Yep. And then back to the UFC. Is a legit top 10 light heavyweight. In my mind, at least. In
a division that needs contenders.
Yeah.
The man, Andrei Arlovsky, is back. We kind of talked about it before. Taking on Shaquille Abdurakhimov. Fucking names are so hard to pronounce.
It's going to be a doozy this weekend, whoever is on the call.
I know. Jesus. Who is going to be on the call? Maybe... Good question.
I would assume it's good
Hardy and Good.
Yeah.
Good. I love them. They're great together, man.
Yeah, you can tell they actually kind of get along well and whatnot.
Yeah. Arlovsky. What a crazy career. So many ups and downs. It'd be cool to see him win in Russia. I feel like Arlovsky deserved to rub to get a UFC main event. Has he ever fought Mark Hunt before?
I'm pretty sure. Let me see. That'd be crazy if they have not. They might not have.
I don't think they ever fought before.
That's pretty surprising.
Yeah, that seems crazy, right? I mean, Arlovsky's fought everybody. Dude, and just like the ups and downs of that guy's career. Dude, he was the UFC champion in what? He won the UFC title in 2005. Was like the baddest motherfucker on the planet. and then lost, and then went to obscurity, and then he was the baddest motherfucker on the planet again, and then he lost, and then he comes back out of nowhere and puts together like a 6-7 fight win streak, and then goes on another. Like, he's had so many ups and downs. Like, how long do you think Arlovsky's gonna be fighting?
You know, his most recent style, like, because that run,
he adapted his
exactly
style well for his
run of losses where everybody thought that he was done, like totally done, was back in fucking 2009. Was when Fedor. So when Arlovsky fought Fedor in January of 2009,
jumping knee.
That was a time when, like, I thought Arlovsky was one of, if not the best heavyweight in the world, because he left the UFC on a win streak.
And he was doing really well against Fedor.
Exactly. And then he got knocked out, flatlined by Fedor, knocked out,
flatlined,
knocked out by Brett Rogers, knocked out by Sergey Karatanov, and everybody just kind of thought, all right, he's done. But he adapted his style to be more defensively responsible. Then he kind of got too good for his britches in the UFC, had another win streak, and then lost to Overeem, Barnett, Ngannou, Tybura, Miocic. But yeah, I mean, he fights super safe now. It's still,
which is smart because, I mean, that chin is still,
yeah. No, he's old.
He's scary.
He has so many miles on, but we'll see. You know, he fights super safe, but it's still risky at heavyweight. I mean,
it is.
Abdurakhimov is a wrestler, but he can bang. He has that knockout over Chase Sherman, which was fucking brutal.
Yes, he flatlined Chase Sherman.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this is a winnable fight for Arlovsky. Again, like you said, if he plays that smart style, which I think he will, I'd love to see Arlovsky get a win, especially in Russia, he's Belarusian. Keep on trucking, man. I'd love to see him get that win.
Yeah. I think he should get the win. I think he should be able to defend takedowns, and he always has an underrated gas tank. It's not great now at his age, but I think he's pretty quick. He should be able to stay away from the mat.
Agreed, man. Thiago Alves is fighting on this card. There's a couple studs too on this card. Got Peter Yan returning. Again, we talked about him a while back. He made his UFC debut finally. Just an absolute stud. Rustam Khabilov is coming back. He hasn't fought in a while, has he?
Let's see.
That guy's a fucking monster. He's one of those fucking Russian dudes that's just a beast. No, his last fight was in 2017, over a year ago.
And
fighting Cajun Johnson, man. Good luck.
They're trying to get him out of the UFC.
Yeah, I mean, dude, to go from Khabilov and then in his last fight he had to fight fucking Makhachev.
Cajun Johnson is coming off of a loss, but he has to fight Rustam Khabilov, who is on a 5-fight win streak.
Yeah. Jesus, poor Cajun Johnson. Fun one, man. Mirabek Taisimov coming back, fighting Des Green. Taisimov's a savage, dude. Complete savage. That guy's disgusting. Fighting Des Green, who's a tricky fighter, lengthy southpaw, from the New York area. I saw a lot of his fights coming up on the regional circuit, so he's a fun one to watch.
Yeah, for sure. Taisumov is really flying under the radar. I feel like he's on a 5-fight win streak as well. 5 finishes in the UFC.
Yep. Yeah, 5 finish streak. Yeah, had a lot of momentum too. He hasn't fought in a while either, so good to see him back. Mirab Dishvili open up the main card against Tyron Ware. That's going to be a fun one. If you remember, Dishvili was the guy that got choked out, but didn't get choked out against Ricky Simone in his last fight. All that freaking crazy madness. So we'll see, man. I mean, a lot of Russian talent, a couple big names. Should be a fun card.
Yeah, and it's a Fight Pass card, so if you have Fight Pass, watch it live if you want. Catch it later. Do whatever you want.
It's going to be live at like 1 p.m. on a Sunday or something crazy.
I don't know. I think it's Saturday. I think it's Saturday morning. Whatever. I'll probably watch some of it with some coffee, chill, maybe go train, watch the rest of it later. Oh,
dude, I love coffee and MMA, man. It's so great. I honestly like it. I mean, I don't like getting up like those fucking China cards at 4 a.m. But like watching a main card at like 8 a.m. with a nice cup of coffee is really relaxing. It's nice. All right. So this weekend we also have Triple G Canelo. You know, I'm kind of out of the boxing loop nowadays. But I know this is obviously one of the biggest fights out there right now. Do you have any strong opinions on it?
No strong opinions other than, you know, I'm pumped. It feels, I don't know about you, it feels less exciting than their first fight, which it shouldn't be, because their first fight was awesome, right? Yeah, so like you have to assume that their second fight, their rematch here, is going to be really good. But it, you know, maybe the excitement will come to me as it gets closer to that time. I'm generally kind of out of the boxing loop as well, but no, man, if I'm very excited to watch it. Like I said, their first fight was just really good. Canelo did a lot better than I expected. You know, the scorecards were funky the first time. I think Triple G won the first fight. I think he'll win the second one. But the more time that passes, you know, Golovkin can't keep up his style much longer. I feel like he's not like a Justin Gaethje. He's not all action, but he is, you know, he fights a very physical, aggressive style of boxing. So I think if this stretches out into a trilogy, which you have to assume it does, that Canelo is gradually going to get the upper hand in the matchup. But I'm super pumped because, you know, two big stars who delivered big time in their first fight. So you have to assume it delivers big time in the second one.
Yeah, and I mean, how old is Triple G? Is significantly older too, isn't he? Isn't he like in his late 30s or at least mid 30s? Whereas Canelo is still like, feels like he's like still 22, but he's what, like 25, 26 maybe?
Let me see. I mean, Canelo was like, he was like Ring Magazine's Fighter of the Year in like 2010 or something when he was super young. Let's see. Canelo is 28, so really entering his athletic prime probably. And Golovkin is 36. And like I said, he fights a very physical, aggressive style. You know, a lot of his style is about being able to take a shot and keep moving forward.
Can
for
he
sure.
take a shot?
For sure.
Jesus. God damn, $85.
Yeah, it's
Holy
expensive.
shit.
And you also got to assume Canelo, you know, the size I think was an issue in their first fight. You got to assume Canelo is filling out as a middleweight a little bit more, especially with some of that tainted meat. But
them tainted burritos down there in Mexico.
Yeah, I mean, I forgot how excited I was for their first fight. Maybe I'll have to rewatch the first one. But style wise, it's a great boxing match with Golovkin moving forward and Canelo showing that he's a fucking champion. You know, Canelo throwing back hard as well.
My bad about that ad pop-up that popped up there, Ben. But dude, so Triple G is a -155 favorite. Canelo, the comeback is +125. Seems about right. Thought it'd be a little bit closer to a pick 'em. I actually kind of favor Canelo in this fight. Especially, you know, the longer the fight goes, if he can get to work on that body again. I think he's going to have a similar game plan as the last fight, work the body. He's got a great uppercut, great hook with both hands. But, dude, check out some of these odds. And, again, I don't really know much about many of these people, but Jamie Munguia is a -5,000 favorite against Brandon Cook. So I'm assuming that's just an absolute squash match. And it's a title fight, too. How crazy is that? And Roman Gonzalez, Chocolatito, I know who that is a -2,000 favorite against Moises Fuentes.
Boxing, man, they don't fuck around with building up fighters and knowing who they think is going to win.
I'm about to throw a fucking $100 on the homie Brandon Cook, dude. Imagine that. Jesus. All right. So one more thing that I feel like we need to bring up, I don't think we've talked about it yet, is briefly, let me get your opinion on Liddell Tito Ortiz 3. It's official. Golden Boy Promotions, Oscar De La Hoya is going to do. He's going to dip his toes in the MMA world. Yeah, Chuck Tito 3 is happening, official. I forget when the date is. They've announced the date, haven't they?
I don't think so, or maybe they have.
No?
If it's official, you have to assume they have. But
oh yeah, set for November 24th on pay-per-view.
I think it's gonna be a fucking. I think this whole thing is gonna be a disaster.
Absolutely.
Like, I think it'll be a blip on Chuck and Tito. Will never be a blip on the radar. They're a huge storyline that will exist forever in MMA. But I think this event and Golden Boy MMA will be a blip on. It'll be like Yama. You remember Yama pit fighting? How it's kind of a joke now.
Yes, I
and
do.
People talk about. I feel like that's what people will be like. You remember when Oscar De La Hoya fucking put on a Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell fight in 2018? I don't know, man. That's my only opinion.
43-year-old Tito Ortiz taking on 48-year-old Chuck Liddell.
Chuck Liddell has not been just living the cleanest of lives the past few years, from what I understand.
Dude, did you see those fucking videos of Chuck hitting pads recently?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Oh my Lord. But again, like, and it's actually sanctioned in California. So, I mean, look, like, they're not throwing in Chuck with John Jones, which that fucking crazy guy was talking about at one time. You know, he might have hit the old cocaine slopes that day, but you know, Tito is. I don't necessarily have too much of a problem with it. They got sanctioned in California, which, you know, we know is a proactive commission. They've taken a lot of steps to you know, curb the weight cutting issue. From everything I've heard, they passed all the tests that need to be passed. And again, I mean, you know, I think Tito is a lot more, I guess, well off at this stage of their lives, but, you know, I don't have too much of a problem with it.
I hope it's at heavyweight. Like, there is no reason for these guys to be cutting any weight at all.
Oh God,
right?
yeah.
Like,
I didn't even think of that, but yeah, absolutely.
Like, I don't know, man. I think this will, I mean, I'm sure I'll watch of sorts.
Oh God,
I don't know
absolutely.
what the price tag on that pay-per-view is going to be or how I'll get it.
I was just going to ask, what do you think? I mean, he's going to probably price it pretty fucking high. I would say at least 50, if not higher. Man. You got to think, I wonder if he's going to model it like a boxing card where there's like, what, 3-4 undercard fights, or he's going to try to put a whole fight card under it, you know, 10, 12. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Who's your pick?
I guess Tito, but who the fuck knows, man? I mean, because Tito's been around. He hasn't entirely ever left the sport, I feel like.
How long do you think before they gas?
Dude.
Like, could you imagine this fight in like the second round if it makes it that long? Jesus.
Well, the thing is, if I'm picking Tito, it's not. I don't think Tito's gonna finish it early. I think Tito's gonna fucking take him down, and it's gonna be just.
Dude, I don't know if Chuck could survive on the ground at this point in his career. Like, Chuck's gonna gas within like 3 haymakers. He's never had that good of a get-up game, and 40-year-old Chuck now at heavyweight is gonna look like a fucking fish out of water on the ground. But man, could you imagine just like an old school 48-year-old version of a Chuck Fleury? Just knocking out Tito Ortiz.
It looked like he's in molasses, dude.
It's going to be hilarious. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, it'll be
You
something.
got anything else this week, man? Did we miss anything?
I think that's it. All the big stuff.
I think so as well. So as always, been plugging it every week. We're going to keep plugging it. Sync that CombatDocket calendar. You can stay up with everything going on, especially if me and Ben forgot to mention an event, which we have been known to do. Sync that calendar. Follow everything. Follow us on Twitter. Give us a like, a subscribe, a rate. And we'll talk to you all next week. Enjoy the fights.